You know that feeling, right? That incredible burst of motivation when you decide to start something new, maybe a fitness routine or a creative project, could be a learning goal. It feels like, wow, anything is possible. But then how often does that initial spark just fizzle out?
Oh, absolutely. It's a completely universal experience, I think.
Yeah.
That initial surge, that desire to change or achieve something, it can feel so powerful.
Hmm.
But relying only on that feeling, that's often where we hit a wall, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And that's what this deep dive is really all about. Understanding what happens after that first burst of motivation fades, and crucially, how we can consistently show up for ourselves day in, day out. We're going to unpack this essential muscle of self-discipline, especially focusing on the mindset and the actual practices behind that daily follow-through.
Yeah, and for this deep dive, we've really dug into the sources you shared. We've pulled out some, I think, really potent insights, particularly from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, which is groundbreaking, but also weaving in other fascinating research that shines a light on the psychology behind staying consistent.
Right. So our mission today is pretty clear. We want to equip you with both the mindset shifts and the practical tools. The goal is to help you build that rock-solid self-discipline, turning intentions into consistent actions, and ultimately helping you get the results you really want, even when that initial excitement is long gone. Okay, so let's tackle something right off the bat, a common point of confusion. What's the real difference between motivation and discipline? They often feel like, two sides of the same coin, but the sources we looked at point to a really crucial distinction.
That's a great place to start, actually, because getting this clear helps so much. Think of motivation as the ignition. It's that psychological process that kicks things off, initiates desire and action. It's often influenced by emotions, maybe external rewards, or even seeing others succeed. But here's the kicker. It's notoriously temporary. It fluctuates wildly.
Okay, so motivation is the spark.
Exactly. Discipline, on the other hand, that's the steady engine. It's the ability, the skill, really, to consistently follow through on your plans, your commitments, even when, and this is key, even when that initial motivation is completely absent, it's something that genuinely strengthens with deliberate practice.
So motivation gets you to the starting line, maybe, but discipline is what keeps you actually running the marathon. And our sources really hammer this home. Motivation can feel easy, almost effortless when it strikes, but discipline, that's where the real work comes in. It requires consistent effort, commitment beyond just feelings.
And that's precisely why discipline is just far more reliable for the long haul. What's fascinating here, and this goes a bit beyond Clear's direct focus, but supports the idea,
Mhm.
studies like the one by Angela Duckworth and Martin Seligman, they showed that self-discipline actually outperforms IQ in predicting academic success in adolescence. It really is about showing up and doing the work, especially when you don't feel like it.
So, okay, what does this mean for you listening right now? It means you simply cannot rely on feeling motivated every single day. It's just not sustainable. Your mood, your environment, unexpected things popping up in daily life, any of that can easily just knock the wind out of your motivation, leaving you kind of stalled.
Exactly right. Discipline provides that essential structure, that consistency. It lets you act regardless of mood, regardless of circumstances changing around you. It's actually less about having heroic willpower in the moment and much, much more about strategically designing your life, your environment to make the right actions almost automatic.
Okay, strategic design. I like that. Now, many of us, myself included, set goals based on what we want to get right, like lose 20 pounds or finally publish that book. But James Clear suggests this focus on outcomes might actually be the wrong thing to change. That sounds pretty counterintuitive. Why does he say that? How does that shift things?
It is bold, isn't it? But it's incredibly insightful when you unpack it. Clear talks about three layers of behavior change. There are outcomes, it's your results, like the weight loss. Then there are processes, your habits, your systems, like the gym routine. And then the deepest layer, the most profound one, is identity. That's about your core beliefs, your self-image.
Identity. Okay.
Yeah, and most people. We tend to get stuck focusing only on those outcomes. But what Atomic Habits argues, and honestly what a lot of psychological research backs up, is that the most lasting change, it comes from shifting your identity. As Clear puts it, pretty bluntly, behavior that is incongruent with the self will not last. If you don't see yourself as that kind of person, the habit won't stick.
Wow. Okay. So here's where it gets really interesting then. Instead of thinking, ugh, I have to go for a run, the shift is towards, I'm the kind of person who takes care of their health. But I mean, for someone who's really struggled with consistency, how do they start believing they are that person? Especially if, their past behavior kind of screams the opposite. What's the first concrete step to actually internalizing that new identity, maybe beyond just saying it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Clear offers a really practical approach. It's basically a two-step process. First, you consciously decide the type of person you want to be. Be specific. A healthy person, a writer, someone who never misses a workout, whatever resonates. Then the second crucial step is you prove it to yourself with small, consistent wins.
Small wins. Okay.
Yeah, think of it this way. Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. It creates this feedback loop. You take a small action, you gather a little piece of evidence for your new identity. Clear tells this great story about a friend who lost over 100 pounds. Her guiding question was simply, what would a healthy person do? In countless small moments. It's not just about the physical act. It's fundamentally about rewiring that internal belief system.
That really does highlight the shift in focus, doesn't it? Away from just chasing the end result towards actually becoming the kind of person who naturally achieves that result. And that feels like where real intrinsic motivation kicks in, because the habit becomes part of your sense of self, your competence. It makes that daily follow through feel less like a chore. All right, so if we want to become that disciplined person, that consistent doer, and build that identity, how do we actually do it? How do we make the habits stick? James Clear offers this brilliant, very practical framework. 4 simple laws to build good habits, and then you just invert them to break bad ones. Let's dive into the first one, make it obvious. Or the inverse, make it invisible.
Right. So our brain is constantly scanning our environment for cues, signals about what to do next, and visual cues. They're incredibly powerful. This law isn't really about boosting your willpower. It's all about smart environmental design. Disciplined people aren't necessarily willpower superheroes. They're often just better at structuring their lives so they avoid situations that demand heroic levels of self-control. They simply spend less time in tempting environments.
Okay, so designing your environment, how can you actually do that? What does that look like day to day to make those good habits obvious and the bad ones, well, invisible for that consistent follow through?
It's all about making your desired actions almost unavoidable and your unwanted ones really difficult or out of sight. So practical things. Lay out your gym clothes the night before. Put your water bottle right on your desk. Keep healthy snacks visible and easy to grab. And conversely, for bad habits, maybe delete those distracting social media apps from your phone's home screen. Unplug the TV after you use it, add that little bit of friction. Remove the junk food from the house entirely. As Clear points out, sometimes if you just remove a single cue, the entire habit often fades away. It's about lowering the barrier for good stuff and raising it for the bad stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. Reducing friction. And building on that, thinking about making it easy to start. What makes us actually want to do something in the first place? Beyond just seeing the cue, that leads us nicely into law 2. Make it attractive, or its opposite, make it unattractive.
Yeah, this one taps right into our brain chemistry. Habits are fundamentally dopamine-driven feedback loops. Our brains are basically hardwired for this. We get that little squirt of dopamine, that feel-good chemical, not just when we get the reward, but actually in anticipation of it. That anticipation is often even more powerful than the reward itself. So as Clear says, it is the anticipation of a reward, not the fulfillment of it, that gets us to take action.
Ah, okay. This is where we can get really clever, can't we, with things like habit stacking. That's the formula. After my current habit, I will my new habit. It basically leverages those existing strong neural pathways, right? So maybe after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. Or after I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my workout clothes. You're literally linking the new thing to something already automatic.
Exactly. You're piggybacking. And you can take it a step further with something called temptation bundling. This is really smart. You pair an action you want to do with an action you need to do. So for example, maybe after I make 5 sales calls, the need, I will check ESPN for 5 minutes, the want. Or maybe after I do 10 burpees, the need, I get to check Facebook, the want. The idea is to make the necessary task the gateway to the enjoyable one. It basically makes the hard thing more attractive because it's directly linked to something pleasurable right after.
That makes perfect sense. It's like giving yourself a little immediate reward structured into the process. But it raises an interesting point, too. If our environment acts as a cue and making things attractive helps, can our environment extend beyond just, like, physical objects? Does our social circle, the people around us, play a role in making certain behaviors seem attractive or unattractive?
Oh, massively. Our behavior is incredibly influenced by the norms of the groups we belong to. So joining a culture where your desired behavior is just the normal, expected thing, that can be incredibly powerful. As Clear puts it, the normal behavior of the tribe often overpowers the desired behavior of the individual. If everyone in your group exercises regularly, or reads constantly, or prioritizes learning, you're far more likely to adopt those behaviors yourself. They just become the default.
Okay, so surround yourself with people living the habits you want. That ties attractiveness and environment together. Which brings us to Law 3. Make it easy. Or, conversely, make it difficult. This one feels pretty intuitive, but what's the deeper insight here? Is it just, don't make things hard?
Well, yes, but it taps into something fundamental, like Newton's law of motion, basically. An object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. Getting started is often the hardest part. Think about it. The first push-up often feels harder than the 10th one, right? Habits are just easier to build when they fit seamlessly into the flow of your life. Reduce the friction for the good habits, increase it for the bad ones. The deeper insight isn't just make it easy, it's that consistency often comes from minimizing the activation energy needed to start, not from having superhuman willpower every day.
Right, and this is where the 2-minute rule is pure gold, isn't it? The idea that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The goal isn't immediate mastery, it's mastering the habit of showing up. So your ambition might be to run a marathon, but your starting habit is just put on your running shoes, or if you want to read more, the habit is just read 1 page. It makes that entry point almost frictionless.
Precisely. You have to standardize before you can optimize. That's a key idea. The 2-minute rule makes starting almost mindless. It helps you just slip into the activity. And it's always far better to do less than you hoped than to do nothing at all. That consistency is what builds the identity. This also links back to environment design, like laying out the gym clothes or chopping vegetables on Sunday for the week ahead. You're making the future easy choice by removing friction now.
Okay, makes total sense. Obvious, attractive, easy. That leads us to the final law, Law 4, make it satisfying, or make it unsatisfying. This seems like the ultimate payoff, the reward part. But there's a bit of a paradox here that can trip us up, isn't there?
There absolutely is. This is like the cardinal rule of behavior change. What is rewarded is repeated, what is punished is avoided. Simple enough. But the paradox is this. Good habits, the ones with long-term benefits, often have immediate outcomes that feel, well, unfavorable, like the effort of a workout or resisting a craving. Bad habits, meanwhile, usually offer immediate gratification, that hit of sugar, the distraction of social media. Our brains are just hardwired to seek those immediate rewards. And understanding this biological reality is crucial. It means you can start blaming your willpower and start designing for satisfaction.
Okay, so our brains want that instant hit. How can we possibly make good habits immediately satisfying, especially when the real payoff, like getting fit or finishing a project, is way off in the future?
You have to engineer immediate reinforcement. Create some kind of surrogate reward. Give yourself a small, immediate treat right after you complete the habit. Maybe watch a short, funny video, listen to a song you love, or even just put a check mark on a tracker. Using leading indicators is powerful here too. Instead of focusing only on the lagging indicator, like weight loss, track the action itself, like checking off went to the gym or wrote 500 words. That gives you an immediate sense of accomplishment, a win today. And for breaking bad habits, make not doing the thing satisfying. Clear mentions someone who set up a leather jacket savings account. Every time they avoided an impulse buy, they transferred the money they would have spent into that account, making saving visibly rewarding.
Oh, I like that. And to make bad habits unsatisfying, you can bring in social consequences, right? Like having an accountability partner you report to, or even setting up a habit contract.
Exactly. Adding an immediate social cost or even a financial penalty outlined in a contract makes the negative behavior immediately painful, or at least uncomfortable, which makes you less likely to repeat it.
Okay, these 4 laws provide a really solid toolkit. But let's be real for a second. Life happens. You will miss a day. You'll slip up on that perfectly planned, disciplined path. I know I certainly have. What happens then? Does the whole thing just fall apart? Is it back to square one?
Not at all. And this is so important for people to hear. This is where James Clear's never miss twice principle is absolutely critical. He says, the first mistake is never the one that ruins you. It is the spiral of repeated mistakes that follows. And this lines up perfectly with broader research on resilience. A single slip-up, That's not the real problem. The problem is letting one missed day turn into two, then three, then giving up entirely. The key is forgive yourself quickly. Don't dwell on it. Maybe briefly reflect what triggered the slip. Then immediately recommit. Get back on track with the very next opportunity. Real progress, lasting change, is made in how quickly you recover, not in achieving some impossible streak of perfection.
That never miss twice rule feels really empowering, actually. It gives you permission to be human. But okay, even if we recover quickly from a missed day, there's another challenge that often creeps in when we're trying to be consistent long term. Just plain old boredom. How do we keep going? How do we maintain that discipline when the novelty wears off and the task itself just becomes, well, monotonous?
Oh, boredom. The silent killer of habits, right? This is where understanding the Goldilocks rule can help. Humans tend to experience peak motivation when we're working on tasks that are right on the edge of our current abilities. Not too hard that they're discouraging, not too easy that they're boring, but, just right. Clear actually argues that the greatest threat to success is not failure, but boredom. Which sounds kind of dramatic, but there's truth there. And here's the counterintuitive part. To achieve real mastery, to build that deep ingrained self-discipline, you often have to, as he puts it, fall in love with boredom, unquote. You have to find satisfaction in the repetition itself, in the process of showing up day after day, even when it doesn't feel exciting. True mastery often looks mundane from the outside.
Fall in love with boredom. That's a tough one, but I see the point. It's about the commitment to the process itself. And sometimes, even with all these strategies, the 4 laws, the mindset shifts, we might still be struggling because we're trying to fix the wrong problem altogether. James Clear suggests asking why 5 times to drill down to the root cause. I know I've definitely been guilty of trying to just push through a barrier with sheer willpower when the real issue was something else entirely.
That's a classic scenario. He gives the example of someone struggling to wake up early. You might think, oh, I just lack discipline in the morning. But if you ask why, maybe 5 times, why am I tired? Because I stayed up late. Why did I stay up late? Because I was watching Netflix. Why was I watching Netflix? Because I was stressed, and so on. Suddenly you realize the bottleneck isn't waking up, it's the evening routine. Fix the bottleneck maybe by setting a TV cutoff time, and the desired habit, waking up early, becomes much easier. It's also about recognizing, like you said, maybe what season you're in life. Your priorities shift: career, family, health, learning. Your habits and systems need to adapt to what you're genuinely optimizing for right now.
So it really comes back to this idea that it's not about this constant painful struggle against yourself. It's more about consistently, deliberately casting those votes for the person you want to become, day after day, sometimes minute by minute, regardless of how you happen to feel in that moment.
Precisely. Discipline is a skill. And like any skill, it strengthens with practice. The more you consciously apply these strategies, making cues obvious, making habits attractive, easy, satisfying, getting back on track quickly, the easier it becomes. Eventually, the goal is that you won't even feel like you have to practice it anymore. It just becomes a natural, integrated part of who you are. That daily follow-through becomes an effortless extension of your identity.
Okay, so just to recap this deep dive. We've unpacked that crucial difference between fleeting motivation and reliable discipline. We explored the really profound impact of shifting your focus to identity-based habits. And we armed you with those practical, science-backed strategies from James Clear's framework, the 4 laws of behavior change, things like habit stacking, temptation bundling, the 2-minute rule, making it satisfying. And importantly, we looked at how to bounce back from those inevitable setbacks, always keeping the focus on consistent daily follow-through.
And maybe, if we connect this all to the bigger picture, perhaps true self-discipline isn't really about rigid, white-knuckle self-control or forcing yourself through pain all the time. Maybe instead, it's more about the intelligent design of your environment, your systems, and, crucially, your internal beliefs. Making the path of least resistance the one that actually leads directly towards the person you aspire to be. It becomes less about fighting your own desires and more about strategically aligning them with who you truly want to become.
That's a powerful way to frame it. So the question for you listening now is, what really stands out to you from this deep dive? How will you make just one small shift this week, maybe in your environment, maybe in your daily routine, to cast a new vote for the identity you want to build? Remember the 2-minute rule. Start incredibly small, make it obvious, make it easy, and just let that momentum start to build.